your host, Andrew Romanella.
When you play Battle in Mario Kart and you don't turn off any of the items, there are bananas everywhere. I mean, it's like you're losing your balloons because you're slipping on bananas left and right. Bananas everywhere. What's going on, everybody? Welcome into another edition of The Rome Show here on 12ouncesports.com, broadcasting live on YouTube and X. I'm your host, Andrew Romanella. I got you till about 7:30, 7:40 today. It is a Tuesday, June 24th, 2025, and back to our regularly scheduled programming. We will have the one and only Rocky Romanella.
I can't handle this to Rocky Romanella
on the airwaves in about 4 minutes to talk a plethora of things. We will give you a mini charcuterie board before Rocky gets on here because there are a few thoughts I was not able to get out during my umpire rant yesterday after the College World Series. You want to rant on the Rome Show, youtube.com/12OZ Sports or x.com. Oop, that's not it. x.com/12OZ Sports. Comment live right there, and we can put it up on the show. Something we mentioned yesterday, which is where we're going to get started today, okay, was that Kevin Durant was traded from the Phoenix Suns to the Houston Rockets on Sunday, okay? Kevin Durant has now been traded multiple times. Is now playing for his fifth team, I believe, in the National Basketball Association. And the irony to me of this thing going down with KD being traded to the Rockets is that some 20-something years ago, okay, the Oklahoma City Thunder, then the Seattle Supersonics, drafted Kevin Durant to be their franchise staple for the next decade, okay, or two. There was no playbook for when Kevin Durant was drafted out of Texas to the Seattle Supersonics. There was no playbook that didn't have Kevin Durant winning the first championship, the only championship in the OKC era. There was no playbook that didn't have that written down. And now, fast forward to June 22nd of 2025, and the Oklahoma City Thunder, same fan base, same general manager, same principles as an organization, are winning their first championship in the era of Oklahoma City. And in order to get there, listen to some of the names that they traded away to become a better franchise. First and foremost, the aforementioned Kevin Durant. Okay? Secondly, Russell Westbrook. Third, James Harden. Fourth, how about this one, which is arguably the most important superstar that Oklahoma City traded out of their uniform, Paul George. Paul George to the Clippers. Why was that one huge? Because the Paul George makeup of this team was the last-ditch effort at the end of the Russ, Harden, KD era, more specifically the just Russell Westbrook era in OKC. Okay? They trade Paul George to the Clippers for like a ridiculous amount of picks and a man named Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. 2021, ladies and gentlemen. 4 years ago, the Thunder won under 30 basketball games, and SGA was a member of the Los Angeles Clippers. 4 years later, they are the champions of the league, and the player that started it all has been traded to his fifth team and could have been the best thing that ever happened to the franchise. Because I don't think Kevin Durant is the answer. I don't think doing what the Suns did, if you're the Rockets, is the move. You trade away Dillon Brooks and Jalen Green, though not superstar players, key players, to a team that could win a championship. Look at the Thunder and how important their role players were. KD averaged 26 points, 6 rebounds, and 4.2 assists in 62 games last year. In his 3 years in Phoenix, Kevin Durant has averaged 25 points and over 50% shooting from the field and 40% shooting from beyond the arc. The numbers line up with Kevin Durant elite because he is. The championships do not. So it begs the question, are the Houston Rockets better today with Kevin Durant on their roster, or are the Phoenix Suns closer to being the Oklahoma City Thunder? Probably not, because they have absolutely destroyed that roster and ruined so many prime years for Devin Booker. But that's a whole nother aside. The main question is, does Kevin Durant make your team better? Or, which I think is the answer, have we finally left the era of multiple superstars on one team, and building a team is key? Now, don't get me wrong. You still have the most valuable player on your team in OKC, okay? Tyrese Halliburton played like a superstar for most of the run for the Pacers. Jalen Brunson on the New York Knicks. Jason Tatum, Boston. Nikola Jokic, Denver. Like, you can't win the title with average players. But you can't win the title with just 2 great players. And the NBA has shifted. And before we bring Rocky in here, because Rocky's primary goal on this show is to talk hockey. And something that Rocky and I talk about all the time is how much more entertaining hockey is. How much more parity there is in the league. Okay? How much more effort is given no matter the night. Well, the National Basketball Association, slowly but surely, under Adam Silver, over the last 12 years, has arguably become the most parity-driven league out of the 4 major leagues. 9 of the last 12 championships won in the NBA have been different franchises. Furthermore, 7 straight seasons, a different team has won the NBA Finals. And if you look at the stat on your screen, it did not come at a price. It didn't come at the price of less entertaining basketball no one wants to watch anymore. It's actually the opposite. Game 7 of this year's finals was the most watched NBA game since 2019. So in the last 5 years, when the play-in tournament really started to kick up and the death of the quote-unquote big 3 started to become a thing. So we'll bring in Rocky Romanella now, and we'll get his thoughts on Kevin Durant being traded to Houston, because Rocky was at the forefront of me becoming a basketball fan at the time when Kevin Durant was drafted into the league. It's what made me want to even watch or even know that the Oklahoma City Thunder were a thing. And I want your opinion on this. Your thoughts, youtube.com/12OZ Sports, x.com/12OZ Sports, or The Rome Show 1, any of the social media sites. I don't. I think today, the winner, though it doesn't look like it, of that trade is Phoenix. Because long-term, they have way more assets. First-round pick this year, 5 second-round picks over the next 3 years. Way more assets to build a long-term sustainable winner, much like the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Rome Show 12-ounce sports. Rocky Romanella. Here he is. Now, inside the glass, hockey with Rocky.
What an incredible picture. What's up, everyone? Rocky Romanella here.
That's some good
Firing up
stuff,
for the
right?
off season.
Look
That's
at
right.
that. Locked you are right there.
Yeah, no screw in the helmet. What a terrible look.
Yeah, what's going on there, by the way?
Just representative of the game I played.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. Is that
You
your
know, gritty.
senior year?
Yeah,
How
for
would
sure.
you do that real quick? How would you characterize yourself as a hockey player?
How? Oh, I mean, should I go by a play? I would. Okay, so I was in the corners, in your face. First line penalty kill, guys. Zero minutes on the power play.
Yeah,
No hands, and a puck's probably going off my hip or my head to get in the net.
that is great. I
Yeah.
love the name today, Pass the Rock. That's good
Yeah,
stuff.
I was thinking hard. Well, I teed it up last week. I was thinking really hard about how to be catchy and, make it more sports general.
You nailed it. You nailed it. So be sports general and talk about Kevin Durant for me, because I know you heard that first 10 right there and deciding or not what the move is for an NBA team moving forward.
Well, I was confused at your open because you called it like the KD, like Russell Westbrook era. I was just confused. I thought it was the Serge Ibaka era.
That's too good.
That was the only guy you didn't mention. I was like, man, you got Paul George, you forgot Serge. I mean, that was the guy.
That's
Um,
good.
No, I think it's interesting. I think when you think about the trade for Kevin Durant, like it's kind of a moot point at this point. I mean, the Suns were at the top of their game. The Suns were the best they've ever been in recent history when KD came. He was supposed to be the piece that kind of, led him to the championship, right? He had his 2 years of experience. He learned from the Golden State Warriors, right? I can't remember the stint he had before the Suns, but
The Nets for like 12
that's
minutes.
right. That's right. Yeah, he was in Brooklyn, which was an absolute disaster.
Yep.
But when he came to the Suns, it was like, all right, KD is going to be the KD we expect. He's got his championship experience, and the Suns they were great without him. I mean,
Yeah.
they were first place in the NBA before he showed up, and you thought LeBron, I learned how to win from Dwayne Wade. I'm going to go back to Cleveland, and I'm going to show them how to win, and then I can ride off into the Suns and do whatever I want, right? KD, I go to the Suns. Brooklyn thing was a mess. I got a ton of haters for going to Golden State. Like, this is my chance to get back on top. And sure enough, like, he's just not the guy. And to your point, like, hey, that's great. He puts up 26 points a game, but like, that's what he's supposed to do. Like,
Correct.
as much as he's a great player and you celebrate his talent, like, when you have that aura, you're expected to be that good. So now the expectation is now you're the difference maker to taking your talent and then making the team a championship team, which has been proven can't do really in the league.
That's exactly right. That's a great point. Since literally in the league.
I mean, think about it. I mean, because if and I think the crazy thing about KD is that he could have been Steph if he stayed in OKC.
I agree.
He could have been Steph because he would have been equally talented, equally transformative, equally small market, and probably, if you think about it, he could have easily won 2 to 4.
Yeah, well, and then the other thing is he left OKC as a free agent. So though they would have had to tie some money up in him, and a lot of money, of course, it's not like they lost assets by him leaving. So you're right. It's not like he forces his way out and says, "Hey, I can't play here anymore.
Need to get traded,
Right.
That's
a great.
No, it was a choice, which at the time, I guess you could say is fine because that's kind of what was teed up, from a past. But like he went from local to global, and it completely altered his entire presence on the court and even his entire I want to say fanship in reality.
We are talking to resident hockey expert and player here, Rocky Romanella, as we do every week. I'm just going to start saying now because it depends on the day. Let's flip it now, because I am getting increasingly concerned not as a human, more as a sports fan, that Connor McDavid might be falling into the category of Charles Barkley, or kind of what we just talked about with Kevin Durant, where no matter what, that guy's going to be a top 3 player in the league, hands down, flat out, no matter what. But are they ever going to win?
I think Connor McDavid. I don't necessarily. Connor McDavid is not going to finish his NHL career without a Stanley Cup. He will win one.
Ooh.
Hot take.
Wow.
And I'll go to Ray Bork as my example. One of the best defensemen to play, the early modern game in the 90s and 2000s. Entire career with the Boston Bruins. Last season as an NHL player, goes to Colorado, wins the Stanley Cup. He's the first person to hold it after Joe Sakic. Like the NHL will conspire to get Connor McDavid a Stanley Cup at some point. And if they have, and the first chance, right, is in Edmonton to rebuild around him. He's got one more year.
Yep.
Right. So Edmonton has a year to give him another chance, but then he will be a free agent and he's going to leave. It's if
Almost like
he
written.
he has to leave.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible for him not to leave.
Yeah.
Unless, like, for whatever reason, they're able to ship Stuart Skinner out, find a goaltender, find him depth, and completely make a team that's worthy of winning the cup. But until you can compete with the Panthers on paper, which you can't right now, I don't see how he's not considering it.
Talking to Rocky Romanella here about the National Hockey League now and Connor McDavid. I couldn't agree with you more. And I think it's sad, though, because I think it would be huge for the NHL, as we have looked at the stats for the last week since the cup was won by Florida. Canada hasn't won a cup since essentially 1990 something. And I think with Edmonton having such history in this league, it would be so cool if the guy that people consider the most like Gretzky since Gretzky won the cup in Edmonton. It's sad,
but
though, Rob.
It's extremely sad, and I think people put a little bit too much on the Canadian team hasn't won a Stanley Cup in 30 years. I mean, there are only 7 teams.
No, you're right. I think
mean,
it's
there's
more or
only
less the
7
dominance
teams.
that had existed.
And by the way, the Winnipeg Jets, who won the President's Trophy, their number 1 goaltender is a U.S. born player.
Yeah, he is.
Their assistant captain's a U.S. born player.
It's-
I mean, it's it's not like we're sitting. Austin Matthews is the captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs, arguably the number 1 team in all of Canada, and he's from Arizona.
That is right. The most not hockey state ever.
So you're sitting here and you're saying, "Hey, Canadian team, this." I mean, if I'm anyone and if I'm saying anything about Canadian teams winning the Stanley Cup, I'm talking about the Montreal Canadiens.
I want the Habs. Yeah, 100%.
I mean, they were the most dominant team in all the world in hockey, the most championships ever.
Yeah.
So like that's the team that's like, hey, we got it. Like we
gotta get back.
We gotta get back. I mean,
Yeah.
we're not even close.
Yeah, I feel like Edmonton and Montreal are those 2 teams. Like Toronto, people want to be great because the Hockey Hall of Fame is there, and the Leafs have done a great job with their brand. They're an original 6. But you're right. When you look at the history of the league, Montreal's the best Canadian team to ever exist.
Yeah,
and
it's pretty crazy. Yeah,
their stadium's sick too, by the way.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like Toronto is like the Yankees without the history.
Without winning, you mean?
Whereas, they have they're popular. They're the biggest city in the country. Like it is.
Yeah.
If you go to NHL Network Radio, I mean, it's the hub of the NHL. It's NHL Network Radio. There's not a show that doesn't at least talk about the Leafs as if they're the home team, of the league. So it's very much and
Cowboys.
whereas the Canadians have the history of the Yankees, but they don't have the fanfare. Publicly in Quebec they do.
Yeah, in Quebec, yeah.
In the hockey circle they probably do, but not
yeah.
in the global, in like the national hockey footprint they don't.
And talk about an elite uniform, by the way. I think the Montreal Canadiens red uniform with the C is like one of the best.
Yeah, but McDavid and they do have a great jersey, and the B is going back to yellow in Boston. That's a big jersey update too.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Um,
I was
yeah,
like,
which
"This is a big thing."
listen,
Whatever.
who knows? I mean, Brad
Marshawn won a
Marchand,
championship, and now they
Brad
don't know what to
Marchand,
do
you
with
can do
themselves.
anything. I mean, you can pretty much do anything in Boston, and you're screwed right now because you're just
Yeah.
until you figure out a way to put that guy behind you. I
Yep.
don't know how you're going to move on without wins. Um, but ultimately, when it comes to McDavid, there's a couple teams in the mix. It's the Rangers, it's the Kings. Like it's going to be big name teams that he goes to, but the same problem is going to happen that's happening in Edmonton. He needs team and he
Yeah.
needs guys that are gonna thrive off of his game. He can't be the guy that carries the team. Um,
And
and if
that's
he is the
okay.
guy,
Like,
and
I
if he
want
is the
people to
guy that
understand
can,
that.
and I'm not saying he can't carry the team,
Right. You just can't win in this league with one player. It's just not
but
possible.
he can't play on a lineup that requires him to play every other shift.
That's exactly
It
right.
just doesn't, it's just not working. And I think when you really look back and you dig into what happened, wow, Zach Hyman was really an important piece.
Huge. I mean, we don't probably talk about that loss enough, but like that could have been the difference maker between
Changes
them
the
getting over
depth.
the hump.
Changes the depth. You got to bring a third line and a second line guy into the fold with McDavid on the line. But again, it's a great example of someone who can thrive alongside the best player in the world, and that's really what you need.
Yeah.
And hey, by the way, maybe what we saw in the NBA, whereas it's not really a big three, it's a big two with three or four really important pieces. Right? Like, you kind of just talked about it. Maybe Drysdale and McDavid can't be on the same team. Now, for whatever reason, Malkin and Crosby were able to make it work.
Right.
So maybe Edmonton needs to go take a piece out of the Pittsburgh Penguins playbook when it looks at two-star athletes on forward lines and realize that it's not that Malkin and Crosby couldn't do it together. It's because they had Eric Carlson, a Norris Trophy winning defenseman on defense, and they had Marc-Andre Fleury, a Vezina Trophy winning goaltender on the backside.
Yep.
No one questioned McDavid, and no one questioned Malkin and Crosby together because of the depth they had at D. And they had Pascal Dupuis who could play with
Great
Crosby, and they
reference.
had they had Braden Prust
Chris
that play with
Letang.
I mean Chris Letang. Yeah, I say Eric Carlson. I meant Chris Letang. I didn't get
Yeah.
Carlson until after, but
Right
they
there.
had depth.
Yeah.
That's what Edmonton's missing.
Yeah.
So if Connor McDavid leaves, I'm sorry, it's on you, general managers.
Yeah, I agree. And I think part of it, in terms of your reference to that Pittsburgh Penguins dynasty, is that Evgeny Malkin also didn't try to play the same game as Sidney Crosby, or it was slightly different enough. Whereas I almost feel like Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid are, in theory, very similar players, if not the same. And I feel like sometimes that, without even realizing it, becomes the issue. Whereas you almost need it to be like a point guard that's the first five set of point guard, and now you have this guy on the 6 through 10. It's like this guy could be your starter. Yeah, but man, look how good our second unit is now, because this starting point guard with the same talent level as the number one point guard is running the second unit. It's like, could that be the thing? And I don't know. You could honestly, Rock, you could spin this 99 different ways. The bottom line is they're not close enough, they're not deep enough, and their goalie's not good enough, and they ain't winning until those things get fixed.
No doubt. No doubt.
You know what? By the way, I was thinking about this. And by the way, we're talking to Rocky Romanella. We do this weekly. We talk about hockey. We talk about basketball, sometimes NASCAR, a little golf. We really just kind of talk about whatever we feel. It's good stuff. You can't do no wrong if you're on the Florida Panthers right now. You can damage the cup. You can get obliterated and barely get out of bars. Like, what's going on in Florida?
I absolutely love the Florida Panthers right now. We haven't seen a Stanley Cup celebration like this since the Capitals really went bananas in DC.
Oh, yeah, when Ovechkin dumped into the
Was
water.
swimming through the fountain. I listen. I think when you look at the Panthers, I mean, you listen to they're literally like, we can do whatever we want. We just won two cups in a row. Like, give us a break. And you're kind of like, yeah,
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 I kind of agree with you.
yeah. I mean, I want to be there. I'm diehard Panthers fan just watching videos right now
Yeah.
of I mean, to me, one of the best things I saw was when Marshawn took pictures of every player, and it was thank you to at that team that he got
Yeah.
traded from.
Yeah.
I was
How
like, this is
great is that?
incredible. Just trolling the league,
Yeah. Trolling the whole league.
the whole league.
It's so good.
I mean, I think I love what they're doing. It's going to be interesting to see, in a couple days, free agency starts on July 1st. So it'll be interesting to see how many guys they can get re-signed. I think what you see based on what happens in Florida, I think you're going to see kind of this recipe. Is this really what championship pedigree needs? Is this what it takes to have a dynasty, beyond a 2-year run, in the modern world? And that's guys taking a haircut on what they're truly worth to stay in one place.
Yeah. Oh, it's a fact. And especially where you have ulterior opportunities to make money now, I don't think it's as necessary for a dude to need to max out the franchise in terms of the dollar figure on the dotted line. Now, it's different for everybody, right? Like we're talking about a huge difference for the top 5 players on a team and the bottom 15. That endorsement, that money off the ice might not be there as much, but there are certain great players that I think can, like you just said, take a little bit of a haircut because there's so much more opportunity for endorsement and off the ice money now, Rocky, that you would think if someone's main priority is winning and they have that stuff set up off the ice, they would want that so they can continue this with their franchise.
Yeah, well, the irony is that none of that is in hockey for the most part. I mean, your top 6 guys are probably getting nice endorsement checks and doing commercials, but like not everyone is.
No,
And the
well, and if
money
you are, it's
across the
specific to hockey.
right, and your B plus player is making 6 million a year, whereas in baseball they're making 25 million a year. So these guys are choosing between literally $1 to $2 million a year haircut, comparative to, 5 million a year on a $260 million contract. It's a little bit different than
Huge.
$1 million a year on a $12 million contract.
You know, the funny part about it is, and more hockey players will take the pay cut than any baseball player or football player you'd ever meet in your life.
I would argue that, yeah. I mean, the only people you really see who are publicly taking cuts are quarterbacks.
Correct. And that's usually a quarterback later on in his career that's probably still going to get that exact same money. It's not really a cut, it's a cut on how it's paid to
It's a
them.
change, yeah. It's just a
Yeah,
change. It's
it's a
just it's like a
change.
deferral of payment.
All right, Rock, a few
So,
more minutes here. There's some trades
yep.
going on. We have the start of the new year on July 1st. What is for the people that maybe are becoming hockey fans because of our segment on this show, or because of, I thought, a great year for hockey, just flat out in general, a great
Yep.
year for the game of hockey. What's the schedule look like? What does my fanship look like over the next month or two while I wait for us to get ready for training camp?
Well, coming into this weekend, you get the NHL draft, which is exciting. So you've already had some trades, right? Yesterday, big name Trevor Zegras traded from Anaheim to
Saw that.
Philadelphia. Big move. Like he's in his 3rd or 4th year, came out of the gates hot, was Calder Trophy winner finalist in his first year, put up like 63 points. You'll know him as a casual fan for the flip puck over the net, batting in goal. He
Oh,
kind
yeah.
of is like a lacrosse style player where he can do a bunch of stuff with his puck. But he's kind of skinny. He's kind of undersized, and he wants to play center, which is one of the reasons why he didn't really fit in Anaheim. And it's going to be interesting. It's an interesting fit in Philly because they play such I suppose a hard nosed style of game. So if he's going to play center, he's going to have to be a little bit tougher. Philadelphia kind of on the up and ups. They just hired Rick Tocchet. They've got a young player in Mikhail Michkov that is just an
Man, what a great
absolute
name.
gem. He was going to be a gem. So it's an interesting move. I think it adds a little depth to Anaheim. Nothing crazy, but you got the draft coming up. And then you got free agency starting July 1. And that's really, for me, free agency is almost more important than the draft when it comes to the NHL. Maybe 10, maybe 15 guys see a full NHL season maximum per draft class in their first year. So I do think that that's less exciting, and the free agency is definitely more exciting for me.
I would say the National Hockey League draft operates similarly to the Major League Baseball draft. Now, hockey, way quicker to the translation of draft to be in the National Hockey League, way quicker. But it's the same kind of idea where it's like you're drafting this player 80% of the time to put them in the minor leagues to get them ready for the National Hockey League. It's changed more now. I think it was almost 100% of that. Now, I think it's almost only 20% of, hey, you're good enough. Let's just go right to the league.
No, you're either good enough to make it to the league, or you're young enough where you're staying with the team that you're currently on and you're going to rookie camp every year with an option.
Before you leave, can you explain that to people? Because I don't know if enough people realize how hockey works. Like, if I get drafted out of high school in baseball, I got a choice. I'm either going to college or I'm getting drafted, but I can't mesh the two. Okay. Whereas in hockey, you can, to a degree, mesh the two. Rocky, will you explain?
Yeah, I get my rights are owned, I believe, for 4 years, so I could get drafted. I'll be like an incoming freshman, and let's say at BU, and I could go play at BU every summer. I'm gonna go to rookie camp, and I'm gonna go play with the Rangers development camp, and I'll probably at the end of every season have an option to go sign with the Rangers, depending on if they want me. Until my 4 years is up, and which in which case I think I actually become a free agent.
Yeah, because if you
Um,
don't sign before you graduate, then you're back in the draft, right? Or
Yeah, and
no?
I don't think it's not necessarily celebrated. Like Jimmy VC was actually originally drafted by the Preds, but was never going to play for the Preds, and I think it ended up being like a thing where he ended up with the Rangers. But he waited, I think, till his time ran out. So that's Gabe Perreault, for example, BC. He was drafted by the Rangers, been playing at BC. He decides in the spring to leave BC early, and don't does foregoes his senior year, and now he's on the New York Rangers.
That's such a cool rule. To me, that's exactly how all sports should operate. Because I just feel like it guarantees two things. One, the opportunity that might only be one time for a player, they can say yes to, and not have to feel like they have to make one life decision or the next. And now that one could never come back. It's like, no, I can go to college and be a draft pick. Now, I know that we're not talking about everyone here, Rocky, but then secondly, it's like, think about the development piece of that. You know, NHL teams are getting more mature players when it's time for them to put the team sweater on, and that's got to be better long term for the franchise.
Yeah, I mean, it's a late developing sport, so you've got people that are literally like ready to go, NHL ready at 18, 19, 20 years old. I mean, Zegras was playing in the NHL at 20 years old. But like you would argue he still needs to develop into a long-term Stanley Cup capable NHL player from a size, strength, awareness, but he was good enough to play. And now there's others who aren't quite good enough, maybe have a little bit more development. So it's just about where your developmental level is. But
Sure.
it's always been considered a late developing sport, which is why people play a little bit older, a little bit later, from a development standpoint. So who knows? The person I'm paying attention to in the draft is a guy by the name of James Higgins. He's a Massapequa, Long Island
Ah,
native.
all right.
Grew up an Islanders fan. The
Ah,
Islanders have, I believe, the second pick.
oh, that'd be
Where's my
electric.
draft order right here? They have the second pick in the draft. Excuse me, the first pick in the draft. However, James Higgins is a line mate of Gabe Perreault, played
Mm.
together at BC and on the gold medal World Junior USA team the last 2 years with Gabe Perreault, who's a current New York Ranger. So there's speculation that the Rangers may trade up to
Ooh,
grab Higgins if the Islanders don't take him
ooh.
first overall. So I'll be paying attention to that.
Capo Caco, the Rangers' last first overall pick.
No, Alexei
Second, he was.
Lafreniere.
I knew it was somebody with a reckless name.
Yeah,
Dang, that was
Lafreniere. So
what
yeah,
year was that?
so
5 years ago
4
now.
years ago. No, it was yes, 20. It was the COVID draft.
Wow, that
Yeah,
is
COVID
crazy.
draft. Yeah, and then you've got in the fall after free agency, you've got the international series. Two couple teams will play in Sweden. Then you've got a couple of outdoor games. The Rangers are playing the Winter Classic in Miami versus the Panthers. There'll be an outdoor stadium series in Tampa where the Lightning, I believe, will play the Bruins. Um, And yeah, so that's on your that's coming up on your NHL schedule there. Oh, and
I
the
am.
Olympic teams are going to be chosen for
I
next
was
year's Olympics.
I was just about to tease next week's show because I think I saw like 6 guys were chosen for the team or something like that.
Yep, 6 guys on almost all the rosters.
So I think next week we could start to break that down as we get ready for free agency. Rocky, what a fantastic Tuesday show by you, by the way. Last thoughts?
I don't know if did you know there's a World Cup for club teams going on right now in the US for
Huh?
international soccer. Did you know that?
I think I knew that only because I accidentally stumbled upon it last night.
Best club teams in the world are playing against each other.
Wow. Did I see Inter Miami made it to like the top
Oh,
16?
dude, Inter Miami, big split this big tie last night.
Last huge tie. It's
I actually went to sleep to that game.
only in soccer. That's so good.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
Rocky, what a great show. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for passing me the rock.
Oh, always.
I'll
always
pass it back to you.
pass me the rock and I'll finish this show. Rocky Romanello, everybody, our resident hockey player and hockey expert. Rome Show, 12ouncesports.com. Follow us, The Rome Show 1, Instagram, Facebook, X, TikTok, all of the social media. Hey, we're back tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. as we always are. Until then, you have an electric day and peace.
Thank you for listening.